Welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, the go-to construction podcast for construction professionals seeking inspiration, education, or motivation for the next steps in their career. Each Monday, you'll be joined by me, Mick Donaghy, Managing Director of Gedden Executive Recruitment and a respected name from the industry. A construction leader, a business owner, or someone in the thick of the action. The whole premise of this podcast is for you to get something from it. An idea, a connection, a mentor, whatever it is, I hope you get it. And I hope you enjoy the show. Without further ado, let's get into it. Question 2, Michelle, how can a main contractor CA build strong relationships with subcontractors? Because everyone that I speak to says it's all about relationships, it's all about the people, but then it comes down to it and it never feels that way. So tell me, how can that relationship get built for a stronger effect?
I think in a big way, Mick, it's going to be about building awareness with blue collar discrimination. Because if I'm a fresh cadet straight out of a construction management degree and I go and I get put into a pool of commercial managers who are sort of old school, hardline, subby flogging mentality, you are a little sponge. You're coming into an environment and coming to grips with, like, is this how the game's played? Is this the world that I'm entering into? So in a way, I think you need to be really self-aware. So the first thing I would say is think about what brought you to construction and stay true to your values. Because for me, I know so many people who studied building because they wanted to build iconic projects. They want to actually be involved with jobs. And I used to drive around site and town with commercial managers who go, oh, I did that high rise. I was an apprentice. Oh my God, we got stuck in this lift. And like that's what excites them still, because they can point to buildings and go, I was involved in that job. If that's what sent you to uni and you went to uni for 4 or 5 years and you busted out thinking this is what's going to teach me how to build, and then suddenly you're behind a keyboard and you're in an office with a bunch of people who are just having Barney after Barney after Barney with subbies, open your eyes and think about what is going to teach you how to build. And that's where you can build relationships with subbies in a heartbeat. Because when I was a builder CEO, I cocked up big time, Mick. I had my email signature still said Toowoomba, and I was in the Brisbane office, and this window subby drove to Toowoomba from North Brisbane to have a post-tender meeting with me. And I was so mortified. I was just like, this is so embarrassing. So I rang him up. I said, mate, I will come to you. You just tell me when, you tell me what day, I will come to you. And I drove over to Dowell, North Brisbane, and met with this window guy. His name was Richard, absolute lad, total legend. I went through the contract with him like I never went through the contract with the subby before. I said, this is what you need to watch out for here. This is what's going to be relevant to your trade. He showed me around their premises. I got to meet the guy who actually did the tender, did the estimating for the tender. And we were mates. Like, it's 10 years, we're still mates, me and Richard. And I don't know whether he'll listen to this and give us a like or whatever, but that is an example of how, if you're a builder's CA, go to the subby's office. You have an opportunity to see what their business operation is like. Like, meet not just the person that you're going to be dealing with on site. You might meet the person who did the tender. If you go in there and they've got 15 six-year-olds operating lathes in the back room, you know something's up, right? Yeah. So you have an opportunity to see how professional this outfit is as well. If you can't meet with them at their office because they're somewhere else interstate or something like that, meet with them on Zoom. Like, just do not underestimate the power of FaceTime. Even you and me, Mick, we've exchanged emails and text messages and phone calls, but this is probably the best time we have is when we're FaceTime, right?
100%, yeah.
The other thing that I learned pretty early on is read every single RFI and understand what the hell they're talking about. And if you don't understand what the actual answer is, go and ask the subby to explain it to you, or go and ask the site manager to explain it to you. And whenever those conversations happen over the drawings in the site office, where the subby's there talking about details with the foreman, those are the ones that you need to be involved in. It can be so tempting to just sit back and be lazy and just go, yeah, they got it covered. But that is where you will build relationships with the subbies, because they need you to relate to their world. You need to understand intimately how they actually do their job and how their trade is performed. And when you can do that and you can relate to them, the last little cherry on top, and this might not be something that you can easily do, but if you've never worked a day in business in your life because you're a staffer, just know that. Just remind yourself of that. This is not my money. Like, it's important to this guy because this is his money that we're messing with. So if you're in an interaction about a variation or a payment schedule where you're going to be short certifying them one day. Not all short certifications are a bad thing. I had a concreter when I was pretty green as a CA. I was assessing their progress claims. I was trying to do the matey thing, build good relationships. I just approved every single progress claim they gave me. And then they got to within 10 grand of their total contract sum, and they still had all the driveways to do in this major townhouse development. And I remember ringing him up and saying, hey, can you guys come in and have a chat with me, because I can't approve your invoice. We would be paying you in full and you've still got like a month and a half worth of work to do. And he panicked and rang his wife and said, how have you been working out our invoices? She said, well, I was just timesing the wages for that month and then putting some cream on there for us. And so you can see how you actually do have a responsibility as a builder CA to value the work complete and communicate, because the person who's sending you the invoices might not actually, like the guy who's running the job might be 4 hours away on a remote site and his wife's doing the invoices in the office back home. And that's how major problems can come around. Those guys ended up going broke.
Right, guys, so I'm absolutely pumped to say the Takeoff podcast is proud to be sponsored by RIB Software, the company behind some of the leading estimating software in the entire planet, including Costex, Candy, CX and more. So firstly, if you didn't know, RIB are a powerhouse at providing innovative software solutions to the construction and engineering markets. They have over 500,000 users globally, are known universally as a solution provider for your entire project lifecycle, from planning to construction and beyond. RIB solutions help to ultimately connect people, processes and data, so your project comes within budget, on time and to the quality desired, all whilst reducing your business's carbon footprint. All this stuff matters and RIB has the solutions. So if you're interested in finding out more, get on over to rib-software.com, reach out to your local team and quote Takeoff Podcast. For every listener who buys a subscription of RIB Costex, they will provide one free online training course. Okay guys, back to the episode.
They claimed all the money.
I can just imagine as well, because the subcontractors, cash is king, and not getting paid maybe for one project could set off a chain of events on all the rest of their projects or the forthcoming work. So basically communication is important. And obviously not being too egotistical. I'm guessing, these people coming in, I'm straight out of uni and this is, I'm thinking I'm going to be working on mega high rise one day, and this little small job's nothing to me kind of thing, but what else would you say would be important? Because this is kind of the most important role in construction right now, is that link between subbies and builders and that communication piece. So I'm just fascinated by it. And truthfully, right now, we are getting absolutely smashed in terms of builders and subcontractors needing CAs. And we're noticing more so than ever, subcontractors saying, no, we actually want a good CA for our business because we're getting so much shit from this that we want to go back to them with someone who's, educated and has gone through that process before, So what else do you think stands out?
So for me, the first time I ever went to a job site, I went with a 60-year-old female site engineer, and I was really, really young. And she said to me, look, if you're going to site and you want to build relationships with these subbies, you have to do your homework, which is what I've already talked about, is understanding their trade. But she said to me, just always do what you think's right.
Guys, I'm interrupting this podcast today to give you some information as to what I actually do every single day. So I own and operate a business called Get In Executive Recruitment. We're a specialist boutique recruitment company and we specialize purely in the pre-construction and commercial construction markets globally. We're really well known and respected for our work in estimating, cost management, quantity surveying and contract administration. Because we're hyper niche, we don't have millions of candidates. We don't really even have thousands, but more times than not, we have the right candidate for the right job at the right time. Unlike a lot of recruitment agents out there, we are super experienced in what we do. We understand the market, we understand what makes our clients tick and our candidates tick too. Each and every single assignment we work on undergoes an extensive executive search process. It's robust and it works 100% of the time. We've also got a team of 5 researchers who map our markets out globally within our niche. They're amazing. They allow us to work fast, which saves our clients time and money too. So if you're interested in our process, drop us a message. Now back to the episode.
Like, what's right. And if there's some kind of pressure from someone else to do something another way because that's what they need done. She said, just always try and do the right thing. And that really stuck with me because at that time I was a CA in government, right? So we had pockets of money to spend. We didn't have budgets. We had to spend the money or someone would take it away. So we were the opposite of the pressure that you get when you're in a building company. But when you're in a building company and you've got the pressure around these budgets and everything, like if you make a mistake and you go to the subby and you say, hey, mate, I cocked this up. I was meant to have that in your scope of work. Can you help me work out a way? Almost all the subbies that I know, and there's hundreds and hundreds of subbies I've worked with over the years, almost all of them would say to me, well, probably the best way we can fix it is this. And they will tell you the most cost-effective way for us to fix it. And then instead of you just trying to hide something and entice them into getting, doing a variation for free or whatever, or just trying to hit them with a big stick and saying that's in your scope of work, you should be doing it, and then hiding it from your boss. What you end up doing is you make your position temporary because you have to get out of there to escape the wrath of the consequences of your mistake. It might not even be your mistake. There were so many instances where we would have something that was discounted at tender and it was a genuine discount. So the estimator measured everything, did like the most meticulous job ever. And the general manager would just come in and rub his tummy and go, we really want this one, discount at 4%. And you've got to pick that money up. So they would remove things from items, or you wouldn't have a budget for something. So it might not even be your mistake. And you've got to try and get somebody to do that. Try and do the right thing. Try and be transparent. Try and think of smart ways to get things done, but ask the subbies for help with it and communicate with them openly. If they feel like they can trust you because you go to them and you say, hey, we were meant to have this in here, what's the most cost-effective solution? If you ask them about it early enough and they trust you, they will help you fix the problem because they know that if they don't help you and it goes to shit, this thing's going to drag out. It's going to become their problem on site. And in the end, they will end up having to do something to get it over the line.
Do you think how you talk is important? One thing I've noticed about you, Michelle, is that you've got this like down to earth way of communicating. And that to me is so powerful for the industry that you work in, because I can just imagine if somebody was coming in, with a real sort of like highbrow way of communicating with a subcontractor, then it's going to make them feel awkward. It seems like you're talking to them just in a way that is easy for them just to communicate back and forth with. It just feels like a nice way of doing things.
Involved in a contract negotiation at the moment. By the time this goes to air, this will be over. But it's a tier one builder. The project manager is ex-John Holland, Lang O'Rourke, Lendlease, like big history of tier ones. But this particular tier one that they're working with works in regional areas, is doing a regional job. The head contract is a defence job. And the builder is like the most reasonable group of people that we've ever worked with. And our client's been working with them for 15 years. And our guy actually has a testimonial from one of the builder's staff from 2013. That's like the trading history that you can see, right? So we went back with our departure schedule and said, hey, here's all the things we need. And she came back and said, it is so disappointing that you left this until now to raise this. This is basically saying this is underhanded of you to leave it until now. We're not making changes to the contract. And my response was, that's really unusual for that builder. This might be an indication of her history of where she's worked previously because she's really hardline. But it's also an indication of somebody who's really not very experienced with negotiation. And that's where you'll see like 50 or 60 rejected, like just rejected, no explanation as to why. And if you zoom out and you look at it from the context of something, you've got somebody who is in business. It is their money. They are gambling. They are trusting the builder to be paid in arrears, to go and turn up to a job and be told when to work, what particular order the work's going to be done in, when they get access to the crane, all the things. And then you've got a staffer who's never worked a day in business in their life, just saying rejected, like, no, I'm saying no to you. That type of talking down to somebody is something that will stay with a subby. And Mick, you talk about the way I talk now. I didn't always talk this way. And I got real cringeworthy moments. One thing you should remember is that emails will surface. When you send things, emails last for decades. I was working for a builder in 2015, maybe 2014, and I sent an email to an electrical subby, and 3 years later, he rang me for some help with tricks of your trade. Hey, can you help me come and meet with us at our office? So I went and met with him, and he gave me the most genuine smile. He said, "Do you remember me from that building company?" I was like, "No." And he brought up my email and he showed it to me.
No
and
way.
I was like, "Mate, like
What,
that."
what was your vocabulary like? Was it like really like I don't know, how can you say it? Like I said highbrow earlier on. Was it demeanor of like I'm super professional, or was it more like what was it?
He had questions because he didn't get paid and he got ripped off in that context. So I was helping the builder not pay people because the builder's house was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That guy came through for us in that context. He did what I asked him to do, but he was giving me a shit test, wasn't he? Because he's like, "If you're going to be here working for me as a consultant, are you still that person?" Like, and so you change so much. Like since I had kids, I'm a different human. Just the way you see the world.
Well, it's quite funny. I was training a staff member about 2-3 years ago, and she's originally from India, and so obviously English is her second language, but I'm quite loud when I'm on the phone, and one day she came in and I was talking really, really gently, and she was like, "Why are you talking like that on the phone?" And it's like, because I'll change how I talk depending on who I'm talking to. And it's not that in terms of like I am fake or anything like that, but it's just if someone's quite gentle, I'll try and be quite gentle just to work on their terms. If someone's quite brass, I'll be brass back. So I do think that it's super important to understand who you're working with, understand what level you need to communicate at. Communication is something I'm fascinated by. So it was just something I wanted to ask you.
It's funny you say that because I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, and there's another Irish guy you talk with. I think you were talking to him about investments. Anyway, the banter between you guys is so funny. Like your best episodes by far, in my opinion. But when you talk with me, I'm like, "Oh, Mick talks way more slow and like considered and whatnot." But it's natural. It's actually just because we're human beings. So, and I think it ties to your identity as well. For me, I don't identify as a lawyer. I identify as a construction industry professional. If anyone asks me, "Where do you work?" I say I work in construction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say I'm a lawyer. I say I work in construction.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's exactly what I say as well.
Before you go today, guys, I'm just going to ask you to do one thing. Can you please go to Apple right now or Spotify right now and just give us those 5 stars? Hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference you wouldn't believe. The whole idea of this show is to inspire, educate, and motivate our listeners. And we only do that if we're getting the best guests. The best guests want to see data. They want to see information. They want to see how many listeners that we get. And so all of this stuff is really, really important. So if you can just literally go and do that today, if you enjoy the show, just go and hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to continue to push this out there every Monday. So if you can, hit that 5-star button. And if you can't, even share it with a friend. Go on to WhatsApp, flick it on to your crew. Guys, thank you so much for listening. On to next week.